Hello and welcome to the season premiere of the Sideline Guys, powered by Gainbridge. The Pacers opening night is just hours away now. The coaching staff, of course, very busy, so we are not only thrilled but very appreciative to be joined by the head coach, Rick Carlisle. There's not a whole lot you haven't seen and done as a coach in this league. I'm wondering if opening night, do you still get the jitters, the excitement every single year?
Yeah. It's an exciting time, and I think particularly with this team and the work that's been done over the last 2 years to reshape the roster, develop a lot of our younger guys, and to acquire a couple of veteran guys, young veteran guys like Bruce Brown and Obi Toppin. So I'm excited. We're excited. If you're not nervous, you're not ready.
We talked on Media Day, and you said that it was maybe the most competitive training camp you have been a part of now that you're a few weeks through that. What was training camp like, and do you anticipate that being beneficial here as you start the season?
Yeah, training camp was terrific, although I think if you asked any head coach of any NBA team the day before their first game how their training camp was, if they thought it was good, I think they'd all say, oh yeah, we had a great training camp, you know? So I don't want to make it sound too much like coach speak, but the level of competitiveness and the depth that we have on this roster, I mean, our 15 veterans are all guys that could easily be in our rotation. That includes Jarris Walker and Ben Shepherd, who are rookies. I mean, those guys have the talent level, they have the ability level, and they have the aptitude for the game. So it's exciting managing this kind of, situation where you have so many guys seemingly that are close, requires a lot of communication, a lot of letting guys know what to expect, to stay ready, all those kinds of things. But a competitive environment generally should bring out the best in everybody.
I was thinking today about the 3 weeks of training camp, but I actually then started thinking back to a day in April, because in some ways, the off season, it's not just 3 weeks of training camp that the players put in time, the coaches put in time to get ready for night one against the Wizards. It really started exit interview day. And I remember, the players would come down and they would either talk to you first and the coaching staff, or they would talk to the media. And there was a theme that day about getting better defensively, and it's carried over this entire offseason into training camp. Do you feel like that the challenge that you issued to some of these guys to work on their game individually and as a group on exit interview day, you've seen it come to fruition?
Well, we've made progress. Now, this is not going to happen in a 3-week training camp. It's not going to happen because of individual workouts in the summertime. It's going to happen because collectively we all understand that this is a big part of our improvement. It happens because our management team, recognizes we need more high-level defenders if we can acquire them. That's why Bruce Brown is here. He's a Tier 1 defender on NBA metrics. And he really is the only Tier 1 defender on NBA metrics that we have. He and Miles are the only two. And so, Nesmith is close. Nembhard is close. We've seen Ben Mathurin really elevate what he's done defensively in the preseason games. And so we got to keep moving in that direction. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you, the day before the season starts that we're there, because we're not there. We're going to have ups and downs. Washington is a highly explosive offensive team, regardless of what Vegas says about the number of wins that they should have. I mean, Vegas is predicting 23 wins for them. That's what they predicted for us last year, and we had 23 wins at the halfway mark. So, we all better be very careful and have the appropriate level of respect for all opponents.
You can put a little more time into an opening night opponent than you can really almost any other opponent over the course of the season. But I'm curious, do you break the season up into parts? Because when you're going, I know you obviously can just focus on the next game, but do you see different check marks where by Thanksgiving, by Christmas, by New Year's, is there a time where you want to see not just a record, but certain benchmarks perhaps?
Well, there are certain times that are like the end of December is usually you're usually 30 games in, And, where are you record-wise there? All-Star break, where are you kind of positionally? This year presents a different type of challenge and opportunity. 7 of our first 9 games are at home. And I think it's either 10 or 11 of 16 of our first 11 of our 10 or 11 of our first 16 are at home. So the vastly most favorable part of our schedule is early. And I've been talking to the team about this since our opening night meeting, which was at Chad Buchanan's house, in his gymnasium, downstairs, at his house that he recently built. And we have got to be as ready and as right as we can be from the very beginning of this thing. And if we can get on any kind of a run over that first 16, 17 games, playing from in front and navigating an NBA season from a position of more wins than losses after the first month and a half is huge. But it's going to be a challenge, and we have to take it day by day.
It's hard to believe, considering the impact he's had on the franchise, that Tyrese Halliburton hasn't even been here for 2 full calendar years. We saw him kind of jettison himself into the stardom. He was an all-star last year, had a fantastic season. When you look at him, both what he's capable of and what the impact it could have on your team, what are you hoping to see this year?
Well, when you have an all-star point guard, you have a great starting point for building a successful franchise and a winning franchise. Tyrese lifts the level of everybody around him. There's a great saying that a truly great player in any sport has the ability to allow players around him to achieve beyond their means. And Ty's one of those kinds of guys. I was a recipient of that when I played with Larry Bird and Bill Walton and Robert Parrish and Dennis Johnson, and Kevin McHale. And so he's a special player. And he has an infectious exuberance, enthusiasm. He has knowledge of the game. He's got so many things that you just love. So I know that we're a much better team with him on the floor than we are when he's not on the floor. My analytics guys tell me that all the time.
And I know you have to have a narrow focus right now, but it was a significant offseason with him to get him locked up into a long-term contract. Just the significance as you start to build from a bigger picture perspective of knowing that he's going to be around. How would you describe it?
No brainer. That was one of the easiest decisions in the history of this franchise, I would think, really. There was no hesitation. I think the deal was agreed to, on the first day it could be negotiated. And so, you just got to get that one locked in. And then, and part of the result of him being here is, a guy like Bruce Brown, who's a championship player for a team that just won the championship, Denver last year, wants to come and be a Pacer. Obi Toppin and his agent have been blowing us up for a year, wanting to get him to Indiana. And these guys, time after time, player after player, Jalen Smith loves Indiana. Aaron Nesmith just signed a 3-year extension, and he's a big part of our future. Obi, Bruce, you go right on down the line. And so we've got a great situation here. We've got a special situation here. Tyrese is a absolutely enormous part of it. And we're excited. I don't know how else to put it.
You know who else loves Indiana? Rick Carlisle loves Indiana. I remember the first Zoom when you had your introductory press conference for this stint with the Pacers, and I really could tell then and in all these interviews and even in what you just said just a minute ago how much you have a passion for the Pacers. But yet when you came, I think it's Miles Turner and T.J. McConnell were the only players on the roster then that are currently. Isaiah Jackson was drafted that offseason. The change that you've witnessed and not necessarily overseen because the front office makes these decisions, I know, as a group effort, but how would you describe what the transformation of the franchise that you've seen in 3 years?
Well, we had to get bad before we were going to get really good. And so we took some steps back with wins and losses to develop young players. And and we've spent a lot of time developing young players the last 2 years. But the way the roster has been turned over, and the fact that now we have 15 guys that are very similar, in ability level from top to bottom, and we have the lowest paid roster in the league, I believe, is a real exciting position to be in. Now, it means that there are big decisions coming. We're not going to be the 30th highest paid roster in the league for long. As Ty's contract kicks in and Neesmith's kicks in, and we have to make decisions on other players going forward. But the franchise is in a position now where, there is genuine excitement about what's happening right now and what's going to be happening in the future.
And the coaching staff, that's maybe been the area where we're seeing a lot of stability. I know that helps you as well. I watch the practices and I can see how much the players are learning from the staff that you've put together. How important was it initially, and now to see a lot of these people stick around through this entire process?
Well, when I first got the job, Lloyd Pierce was a guy that I wanted to get on board desperately. It took a little while to get it done. I'd gotten to know Lloyd, through a lot of our social justice work with the Coaches Association. He was our lead for coaches for racial justice, and he's a great basketball guy. I interviewed him for our top assistant job in Dallas one year, and I've always had great respect for him, where he's from, how he's done it, his abilities as a player development guy. I thought he did a lot of great things as a head coach in Atlanta, and had some real bad luck with injuries at the wrong times. So Lloyd's been spectacular here. He takes a lot off of my plate every day. I have implicit trust in him. Mike Weiner and Jenny Busick came with me here from Dallas. They are great people and amazing coaches. Mike has one NBA championship with us in Dallas and two NCAA national championships back-to-back, 06-07 with the Florida program. Jenny's got two WNBA championship rings. Jim Boylan, who has been elevated to assistant coach, consulted with us last year. He has 3 NBA rings, 2 with Houston and 1 with San Antonio in 2014. So, and I didn't mention this, Lloyd was on Pop's staff with the Olympic team 2 years ago, so he has an Olympic gold medal too. So the pedigree of our staff is winners, people that have experienced winning, people that know the sacrifices required to win at the highest level. They not only believe it, but they've lived it. And I've continually reminded our team of this, that they're not going to get a better group of coaches to help them develop their games and help them develop their games within our system.
And as you noted in some of that explanation, all of those coaches have been a head coach at some point. How important is that, or how helpful is it to you to know that all of your assistants know what it's like to be in your chair and know the type of things that you want to get from them?
Yeah, I mean, the only one that hasn't is Mike Weiner. He's never officially been a head coach. He's been the Summer League head coach in Dallas and here, and he's always done a great job. But one of the things I've challenged him to do this year, and I've given him more responsibility in this area, is to be more of a big picture thinker, head coach kind of picture thinker. I have him doing the practice plans every day so that he can get tuned into what that looks like. Every day he puts a plan on the board, and then we kind of tweak it as needed. But when I went to Dallas, I was very fortunate. I had 2 guys that had been head coaches, Terry Stotts and Dwayne Casey, who are also good friends. And that staff was exceptional, and we won an NBA championship. And Dwayne went on to get a couple more NBA jobs, and Terry went on to a wildly successful 9 or 10 year stint in Portland. And so, but those guys, having been in the chair, as you guys mentioned, it helps you see some of the little things that at times the guy in the chair at that particular time don't see. And so again, I just think this staff is extremely special.
I want to go back to a comment you made a moment ago about having 15 guys who could be in your rotation. To the degree that you can share here as you get ready for opening night, challenging decisions, a good problem to have, but still a challenge, I would imagine. How do you go about not only determining the rotations here right out of the gates, but how much fluidity do you potentially have based upon what you see in these opening few games?
Yeah, lineup fluidity is always a possibility in the NBA, especially when you consider health issues that come up from time to time and things like that. It would be great if we could settle into a 9 or 10 man rotation with consistency. I think ultimately that would be the goal. But at the same time, we don't want to lose the competitive element. And I think guys that are in the rotation or playing in games have to maintain a level of responsibility and accountability, knowing that if they're not getting the job done, that there's somebody that can go in there and pick the team up and can help us. And so I just feel like we have a really good situation right now with this team, along with having exceptionally great people, from top to bottom. So it's just another reason why, it's just a joy to come here to work every day. I don't even consider it work. It's just, it's a privilege, to walk in here as an NBA head coach and work with people of this caliber, from top to bottom, players, front office, and the entire organization.
I really appreciate the opportunity you give us to have 2 or 3 minutes on Bally Sports before each game, and I'll save some of my other basketball questions for that interview. I never like to waste some of those questions at practice or in this situation, but I did want to ask, a game day, what is Rick Carlisle's game day like? It's a home game. If you're not going to have a shoot around, what happens when you wake up in the morning, come through the time when you get to the arena? How do you spend your time?
Things have changed in recent years with the structuring of shoot-arounds on game days, really throughout the league, but particularly here because of the physical setup of Indianapolis. A lot of the coaches and a lot of the players live up north, 25, 30 minutes away. So to ask everyone to get up early, drive 30 minutes in, have a shoot-around, drive 30 minutes home, eat lunch, take a nap, get back in the car, drive another 30 minutes back in, presumably when traffic is starting to pick up, and then drive another 30 minutes home is a lot. So what we do here is we have our walkthroughs before the games. Generally either, back-to-backs or non-back-to-backs. So what I try to do is get a little extra sleep in the morning, so I don't have to even consider taking a nap. When you used to do it the old way with the morning shoot-arounds, you'd come home, get a bite to eat, whatever, and invariably there was some mechanism in your body that just felt like you needed to lay down for 30 or 40 minutes at least. And so sleep in a little bit now, get up, maybe work out at home, grab a meal, head in early afternoon. Generally we'll have a staff meeting sometime around 2:30 or 3. Players will be required to be in the locker room sometime around 4:15. We'll have usually a short film, and then we'll go out on the floor. And our pregame walkthroughs, in many cases, aren't walkthroughs. They're pretty active. Guys get a bit of a sweat. We get them moving around, and we get their bodies woken up. And so. And then we have 2 great chefs. We have Chef Jay and Chef Reese, who down in the locker room do a custom order pasta bar and have all other kinds of food. And so after we get done with the walkthrough, guys have their orders put in. They're put in a warmer, and the coaches too. And we'll get a bite to eat before the game. I'll come talk to you guys at 5:15 for however long it is, and then the clock just moves. It just moves, and before you know it, the ball's going up, and we're on our way. So that's generally what a game day looks like, in most cases for me now. But it's changed a lot, over the years.
I hope you don't mind me asking, but my final question is going to be about the off season and maybe what had to be a heartwarming moment for you to go to the University of Virginia and move your daughter into college. What was that experience like? And I know you were kind enough to share last season some of her senior year of high school moments and a couple that you were a part of. How much did you enjoy, and also maybe got a little emotional probably about?
Yeah, and thanks for asking. You know, the senior year of high school is super stressful, you know, with everything going on, trying to get situated with the college of your dreams, whatever it is. In our case, in Abby's case, you know, the University of Virginia was #1 on her list. And so didn't find out until, I think it was Friday, March 17th. It was actually St. Patrick's Day. And my wife Donna and Abby were in, I think, Cancun on a, you know, in Dallas, you know, spring break is not like your conventional spring break. It's like the kid and the parent get on a plane and all of a sudden there's like 60 or 80 kids and parents in Cancun at some all-inclusive resort for 4 days or something like this. Whatever it was a day or two longer than it probably should have been. And I happened to be at one of my favorite places to eat. It was at Savor up in Carmel, you know, sitting at the bar, about to get something to eat. And Abby texted me, and she had already gotten in. She had applied to like 10 schools. She'd gotten into 8 of them and had been waitlisted at one other one and was waiting to hear. But she texted me and she said, "Hey, Dad, Virginia comes out in 12 minutes, you know, the decisions. It's, you know, now they come through a portal, and for whatever reason, the kids found out it was coming on this particular Friday, and really it wasn't supposed to come till the following Friday or even 2 Fridays removed." And so I got on the phone with them, and look, they're in Mexico, and the phone is kind of going in and out, and I'm kind of trying to hear. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God. And she goes, "I got in." And I said, "Well, you busted your ass, you know, to have the grades to do it, and you deserve it, you know." And so that's when we found out. So when we brought her to school, I'll never forget this. We got into, we flew direct to Richmond, rented a car on a Wednesday. Now her move-in day was Friday. So Donna had set this thing up. We were going in on Wednesday. We weren't leaving till Sunday. This is the longest drop-off in the history.
We're in and out in about 4 hours.
In the history of you know, parenting, you know. And so, you know, Abby's an only child, and she's a little bit of a homebody, and you know, we wanted to be there and be supportive. And so it was a great 4 days. But the first day, nowadays when you are setting up a kid at school, you know, you order all this different stuff at Amazon, and it goes to the mailroom at the school. So the mailroom was open between 2 and 5 on Thursday, the next day. So we get to the mailroom, and there's 27 packages that they had sent to the mailroom.
Just for her?
For her, yeah, to set up her room. And Thursday's not even the move-in day. So we have this rented, you know, Expedition or a Tahoe or something like this, and we're piling stuff in the back. And so she's at one of the dorms that's like 2 or 3 doors down. And so we, you know, I'm driving, and I said, "Hey, why don't we go over the dorm? Maybe there's a way to get in today. You know, you just never know." And Donna was like, "Oh no, here we go." And I said, let's just give it a shot. And she thought I was gonna, like, you know, pull some kind of horror show. And so we go knock on the door, and it turned out, you know, she's in a suite. So the door, and it opens up to a suite, and then there's a room, and there's 4 rooms and an RA room. You know, so the RA comes to the door, and she goes, "Hey." And my daughter goes, "Oh, hey, Abby Carlisle, you know, we just got all her stuff. I know my move-in time isn't until tomorrow, but wanted to see if I don't know, maybe there was a way to move in. She goes, oh yeah, come on, grab your stuff, come on in.
You didn't even have to do the talking.
Not much, not much. And so we proceeded for the next 3 hours or 3+ hours, unload stuff. There were bags that were shipped. There was all kinds of stuff. And we got her room all set up. Now, we were there that day, and then she couldn't stay there that night. But then the next day, which was her move-in day, I'm seeing other parents show up, and they're like coming, dumping the kid off, and they're gone, right? And, this is a little different because I still have a lot of friends, in Charlottesville. And so we just had a great 4 days, and we left on, around noontime or around 2 o'clock on Sunday, drove back to Richmond for the flight back. It wasn't as emotional as I expected, but she's had an amazing experience there to this point. It's been close to 2 months. Every time I talk to her, each day is better than the last. It's just like, yeah, I love this place. It's just like, and it's just, it makes you feel great as a parent. But thanks for asking. That was a very,
Made me feel
it's
great
very
listening to your
memorable.
story.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think our fans appreciate you opening up like that. I think that's really cool. And so let me close by asking you this. You've had a couple of other stops here previously, but I want to go back maybe to your first time as a head coach. And I'm wondering, how different does this stop feel? In a lot of ways, you're the head coach of the Pacers, and this franchise has been a proud one for a long time and continues to be. This building, though, that we're sitting in wasn't here. You were younger in your own coaching career. You're in a very different stage of fatherhood and all of that. How do you, I guess, compare and contrast life then and life now?
Well, life is, an ever-evolving thing, and you want to keep evolving and keep growing in your profession. Whether you're a coach, whether you're a teacher, whether you're an accountant. You want to find ways to get better, to find meaning, to be fulfilled, all those kinds of things. This time around, I mentioned my staff. Exceedingly lucky to have this group, and I do everything possible to empower all of them. And you guys have watched practice sometimes. My voice is not the dominant voice throughout practice. They are constantly teaching, and I think it's important to empower your staff, to keep your voice at a minimum unless it's absolutely needed. And you have to do the work and be ready for all these different situations that come up in games and come up with relationships having to do with, dealing with playing time and those kinds of things. But, as I'm going into my 22nd year and coaching this league, the last time I was here, I was going into my 3rd year, and so I've certainly learned a lot. The game has evolved and changed a great deal. Over the years, our teams in Dallas at times were a little ahead of the curve, with the way the game has changed. And you want to be either on the inventive side of it, and if you're not, you have to evolve and roll and keep your team relevant to what's happening in the game. For instance, right now, we're seeing the biggest changes ever with NBA defense. It's so hard to guard. And now you got a guy like Wembanyama coming into the league, who's just looks to be just like completely unguardable. And so defense now, where you used to have steadfast rules, well, now with all the skill, speed, and space, defense has become more of a read and react type of proposition. And so we've had to adjust our thinking as teachers. We've had to, be good communicators to our players from that standpoint. And defense is evolving, not just year to year, like month to month. And so we've got to be keenly aware of that and be ready to change and evolve as we move forward. But a lot of things have changed, but an eye on self-growth and being able to look in the mirror and say, hey, look, you got to do better. You got to do more things to learn more. You got to do more things to help your players. I'm constantly looking at myself.
Well, Rick, we are keenly aware of how valuable your time is in general, especially here just before opening night. So we very much appreciate the time and the perspective, and best of luck here as the season tips off.
Okay, appreciate you guys. Thank you.